Today I'm going to leave you to look at everything in your bulletin. It's Dick. We're so glad to see you. Awesome. Welcome back. You're looking good. Sorry about that. Just giving you a lot of joy looking out there. Well, today I'm going to leave you to read those wonderful announcements in your bulletin. You have a whole schedule of stuff coming up. Wednesday is a big day for us. I know some of you wanted to get your ashes during the day. 1 o'clock is when I will do that here at the church, 1 to 1:30, and then after that I'm going to be going out into various spots in the community to do that. So 1 to 1:30 here, or 7 p.m. at night at our service, Ash Wednesday. We'll be doing ashes then as well. But if you want them pour throughout the day, 1 o'clock. So I'm excited about Lent. Wednesday starts our Bible study. I hope you'll join us. We're starting out with a great Mediterranean meal of St. Peter's fish, tilapia. So I hope you'll come out, and we're going to learn about lots of cool things about Jesus' journey. But today, I want to leave with you, before we start, 2 metaphors. And because we're going to talk about both of those today in our scripture stories. And the one metaphor is the tower, and the other metaphor are bells. We're also going to talk about a ladder. But let me tell you something to think about. Everybody knows the story, I'm sure, of Rapunzel. Right? How many know the story of Rapunzel? Right? From when you were young, she gets shut up in that giant tower, and the only way she finally gets down is this prince comes and, she actually uses her hair as a ladder. She finally is able to escape so that she can actually experience life. So keep that kind of story of Rapunzel there in your mind. And I want to leave you with another thought. And kids, we're going to be talking about the bells too today. But, we have our wonderful bells playing today. And God works in great ways. It's awesome. Good timing. And the bells are so important to us in the life of the church. And many churches still have those great big bell towers that ring and call us to worship. And it's a call to life. And I want to tell you a story about that original use of some bells. And this is a story that I learned from my wonderful colleague, Glenn Sweet, who did an entire sermon on this, which is absolutely awesome. And that is that years ago, before medicine was as good as it is now, they often were not very good at pronouncing people dead. And sometimes they'd make mistakes. And they'd think, somebody could be in a coma, or somebody could, have fainted, and they thought that they were dead. And so there were a lot of instances, if anybody reads Edgar Allan Poe, this is why he wrote some of these stories, there were many actual instances where people were buried alive. And so what they would do is they would attach like a string into the box that would go up above the ground with a bell. So that if that happened, the person woke up confined, which would be awful, but they could ring that bell and hopefully somebody would hear it and come and rescue them back into life. So the bell became a symbol of life. And so when we ring that bell in the church, it is a symbol, it's a call back into life in Jesus. So I want you to keep those 2 stories in your mind, because we're going to kind of get into some interesting metaphors in Scripture when we talk today about the story of Babel and the story of Jacob's ladder.
To serve and to give his life a ransom for many. And this is the word of the Lord.
So in the old days, when there was a fire, there used to be a fire bell. Now it's kind of a loud, blaring, unsavory kind horn. And when that thing goes off, you know it, very loud, right? And I was thinking about this last week, and I was thinking about a show that I love from the 1970s. I don't know how many of you remember this show. It was called Emergency. Very big for who remembers that show. I'm not the only dinosaur. Now it's Chicago Fire. But back then, and I think there's another one that actually in the fall, a new show, I think, called Engine 19, set out of Seattle. But back then it was Emergency, and everybody, all the young women, of course, loved those guys. And but they always it was the same almost every week, really. It had a formula, so they'd be sitting around in the firehouse, or sometimes they'd even be sleeping, or they'd be playing cards, they'd be doing something. And that fire sound would go off, and then they'd all race and swirl down that big pole, and they'd jump onto the truck with the big ladder on it, and away they would go, and they'd be off to rescue somebody from a burning house, or some cat from a tree, or some other really cool thing that would happen. And I was thinking about that symbol a lot this past week, that symbol of the ladder, because that's really the fireman's communication device. It's the fireman's intervention device, right? The ladder that extends from the fireman to the window or the tree or the tower or wherever somebody is shut up and caught and unable to get free. When you see that ladder coming up to that window, I can just imagine that your despair turns to hope. Because you know that somebody out there cares if you live or die. You're there caught in the flames and the smoke, and somebody's come through that fire and flame to rescue you and bring you back into the fresh air and back into a place of life. And I have never personally experienced that. I know people who have. It's very scary. And our firemen are a wonderful group of people. They do such a service to our communities. But you know, God also loves that symbol. God's symbol of intervention is the ladder too. And I know that some of you have probably been in a fix in your life, or a place where you were struggling and you thought that God wasn't there, God wasn't listening, and all of a sudden you get to that really terrible point and God appears. Just like that ladder to your window. God appears in your life, intervenes in your life, does something, pulls some miracle, and you end up saying, oh my goodness, God was there the whole time, and I didn't know it. Anyone experienced that? I sure have. And you know, we learned that from Jacob. Jacob was also feeling pretty stressed out when he set out for Haran. He was supposed to go and find a wife, so he was going alone over tough terrain. I mean, you could get robbed, and it wasn't too much different than later. You could get bitten by a snake. You could, and come across all kinds of thirst problems, hunger problems through the desert. And he was also fretting. He had just deceived his brother. He didn't know what God was really thinking about him. He really was in his heart. He wanted to be on God's mission, but he wasn't feeling really good about himself. So he was stressing. And you know what happens when we stress, we dream. But this dream was a God kind of intervention. And Jacob dreamed that the ladder of God was descending right in front of him, right where he was, and God's voice spoke to him and said, Jacob, you are going to be on my mission, and I'm going to make sure that you and your relatives are spread out throughout this land, that you will be fruitful and multiply and be able to keep my covenant that was given from that moment in Genesis when God spoke said, "You're the one. And don't worry, because no matter where you go, no matter where your mission takes you, I will be with you wherever that is. I'll be with you where you go, and I'll be with you when you come back." And Jacob woke with that feeling of peace, and he said, "Wow, God was here, and I didn't know it." And so he took that stone that he was using for a pillow and set it up into a pillar as an altar and worshiped God at that spot. And he named that spot Bethel, house of God. But think about that ladder. Because Bethel is not a place, but it's a condition. It's a presence. The house of God is not just some stone or some building or some altar. The house of God is wherever he goes. It goes with him. God goes with him. And so Jacob's Bethel wasn't just that one spot. Jacob's Bethel was the knowledge that God was with him no matter where. And that symbol of that ladder was with him no matter where. And if he'd get into a tough spot, he knew God would be there with him to pull him out. Because God's ladder is his intervention. And God's house of God is wherever God is. And that ladder is portable. And that's kind of the difference between a house and a household of God, as we think of it, those generations of God followers. Because a ladder is something you take with you. It's portable, it's accessible, and it can just be put and extended anywhere you need it to be. And when we get into our really tight spots, we really need that ladder to appear in front of us like that beacon of hope. And especially if we encounter a Nimrod. How many know that name from grade school? Don't be a Nimrod. That comes from this guy in Scripture. And he was the one that kind of instigated people to build the Tower of Babel. Babel is what really was the city of later what we call Babylonia. Right? And if you know, even in Revelation, Babylon is not a good word. It refers to a people that were rebellious against God. And that's what the name Nimrod means. It means rebel. It means rebellious. And what he did is he decided that they would build a huge city with big walls around it and a big tower in the middle that would shut everybody else out. It would be their city and theirs alone, and they would be one people, one language. But hold on, what was God's command again? Be fruitful and multiply. Wow. Rebel. So Nimrod here, he thought that it was better if they kind of kept things to themselves. But not only that, you might remember Babylon as being that place of the beautiful hanging gardens, and they were great in art. They built a big city. They were great in the sciences. They did lots of cool stuff. But they also worshipped idols. Babylon was the center of idol worship. And that tower was what was known in those days in Mesopotamia as a ziggurat. It was an idol tower used for the worship of Marduk. So it wasn't just that they were kind of shutting everyone out and not fulfilling the spread the news about Yahweh thing, but they were also turning and deciding that maybe they needed to control things. Because, idol worship is about control. You do the right stuff, you build the right things, you do the right traditions, and the gods hopefully will do what you want. Right? That's very different from God's scenario, isn't it? Because in God's scenario, God is the one in control. God is the one who bestows blessings upon people. God is the one that saves. God is the one with the ladder. And so they built that tower, and if you remember Rapunzel, it's easy to lock yourself in. So you're not only locking everybody else out and bricking everybody else out, but you're walling yourself in. And so God needed to intervene. Now, a lot of times we've looked at this story and we'd say God is punishing them. I like to see it as God saving them. Because when people get in those towers, you're playing with fire. And when you're worshiping other things or other people or even yourselves and not God, you're playing with fire. And they sure were. And those people were in a bad place and they were not going to figure it out by themselves. So God intervened, and I like to think of that intervention as a kind of ladder that goes up to that tower and pulls people out. And what does the scripture say? God confused their language so that they would do what? Do you remember? They were spread throughout the world, doing what they were meant to do out in the field in God's great garden, spreading the covenant, remembering who was in charge, who was the master of the vineyard. It's almost sort of like saying God is God and you are not. Right? God declaring God's authority, just like when he came down with Elijah and blew up that big altar into flames, just like he needed to rescue Noah, just like he needed to rescue Rahab, just like he needed to rescue Lot. God rescued that city by taking them out of their tower and back into the world of life where they could experience life as the garden God meant it to be. And you know, God does that in our lives too. Because we can get ourselves still in trouble when we forget who we are in God. And who are we? We're God's firefighters. We are bestowed with the mission of spreading the gospel. That's our great commission. To spread the gospel, to spread the word of Jesus, the ultimate God firefighter ladder. In fact, what did John say? Jesus is the ladder. Jesus is the ladder that connects God to us. Jesus is God with us. God was here all the time, and I didn't know it in Jesus. And Jesus told his disciples, go out. Tell the good news that I'm here. That no matter what you get yourself into, or what walls you lock yourself behind, or what happened in your life when you're afraid and you don't know what to do, and you're at the state of emergency, I will be there just like I was there all the time, and I will extend God's ladder of hope to you, to all of you, because Jesus is God's ultimate intervention. Jesus is the ladder of grace, of hope, of love, and of life. Amen. Let's sing our Still my soul.